AEA staff support some of the best work happening in school buildings all over the state. We're going to take our listeners on the road into these buildings and talk to AEA and district staff about partnerships making a difference for kids.
You may have seen action films where a character has an assistant communicating to them remotely through an earpiece, giving them advice to navigate through a challenge of some kind. On today's episode, I traveled to Prairie Crest Elementary and College Community to talk about a similar technique being used to support teaching and learning. Grantwood AEA staff use Teacher-Child Interaction Training, or TCIT, to provide teachers with real-time evidence-based strategies to improve the learning environment and help guide a teacher through live interactions with students. I sat down with Grantwood AEA TCIT coaches Chris Wheeler and Julie King, who have been successfully implementing this innovative approach to coaching with some of our partnering districts. Let's talk about TCIT and give us an overview of what it really is and what it looks like.
We teach them in two different ways. One, we teach them in a classroom-based setting, but then the second way is we're in the classroom coaching them while they're talking with their students. So with a bug in the ear, we're coaching them on the skills that we've taught them in another setting. It used to be that we just coached teachers. And this is a model that can be sustained by the school. It takes us a couple years of our support, but we are now trainers of coaches.
It really is flexible. Some districts you might continue to be the coach,
yes,
going into the room, working with teachers, and in some districts you will train others to be the coach or the trainer of trainers.
Yeah.
I've seen, and actually teachers also report this to me, that they've seen an increase in engagement from their students. So they're able to learn and they're excited about learning and holding their attention to what it is they're doing. Sometimes during that coaching moment, we are talking about some students that can kind of stand out from time to time. Sometimes they miss those students and I'm able to coach them in that moment. So-and-so is doing this, they started doing this. And that's a cue for that teacher to go back to that student and provide one of the labeled praises or reflection or behavior description, one of the skills that we teach. And so they've really seen a strong engagement from their students.
Does it take a little bit of time for the teachers to get used to having someone kind of talking in their ear while they're like doing their thing in the classroom working with students?
It does.
Yeah.
We do have them practice during our day one instruction so they can actually kind of feel what it is going to be like in the classroom. 95% of the teachers, after we're done, are like, come back and please put that thing back in my ear and talk to me. So they
miss having you in my ear.
They really enjoy that.
Right. It's always rewarding to hear teachers love one of our programs. I'll touch base with Chris and Julie more later, but I was eager to ask a teacher about her experience with the program. I sat down with Sarah Potter, an elementary school teacher at Prairie Crest, and asked her what it was like having Grantwood AEA staff members in her ear. Did it take a little bit to get used to the little earbud in your ear and them talking as you're teaching?
Yeah, if you can imagine a room of 20 first graders and then they're like, here, put this in your ear and have somebody talk at you while you're talking to your students. And it was uncomfortable at first. Yeah. It was uncomfortable. But then just some of the things that Kylie was my coach, and so some of the things that she could see that I couldn't always see, and maybe it was the student who had their head on their desk, and things like that they could see then and point out to me that are like, hey, acknowledge them for trying, and then next thing you know, they sit up, and then they're participating. And so just knowing that then it was that helpful tool made it a little easier at first.
So Sarah, what has really worked well in your classroom this year with TCIT?
I think one of the things that has worked really well is the engagement piece with my students, because once I, build that initial relationship with them, TCIT helped take those relationships to a next level where they felt more comfortable with me, I felt more comfortable with them, and I just feel like the engagement in my classroom has just tenfold gotten so much stronger, which then the academic results are coming along as well. And so that's been really neat to see. There's that mutual trust between the students and I, because they truly feel valued, they feel heard, and they feel loved. And bottom line, that's what I want my kids to feel when they leave my room.
It's amazing to see how our coaches are helping Sarah better engage with her students. I was curious if Sarah thought this program would help teachers connect with students in higher grade levels as well.
I wholeheartedly agree. I'm over 15 years into the profession, and you kind of get, into the swing of things. But I truly feel like this was something that took my teaching to the next level, because I truly see how my students feel loved and valued and cared for in my classroom. And like I said, that is then turning into other things. Like they're more engaged, their academic progress, they're being more successful in my classroom. And so I really, truly think even older ages, I have an 11-year-old and an 8-year-old at home, and sometimes I'm using these strategies at home,
funny.
And it's very beneficial. Don't use it on your spouse, though.
That doesn't work. That doesn't work for real.
All jokes aside, I was happy to hear this program was helping Sarah form stronger classroom connections. She even shared a touching story about how a technique she learned from her coach helped her reach a particularly challenging student.
Now, you brought in artifacts, so describe what you do with the students and then what the student has done with the little note that you brought.
Yeah, I had a student who we were just having a little more trouble connecting with. Mm-hmm. And so one of the strategies that was suggested was like maybe write him a note because they can read. And I was like, okay, so I will write a note and just nonchalantly put it on their desk and then walk by, and it says things like, you're following directions, or something like, I'm glad you're here today, or I see you doing your job. And so on Friday, when I got back to my computer, there was a note on it that said, I'm glad that Mrs. Potter, you are here. And so it was really sweet because I feel like that has opened another level of communication. And he's got all the Post-its I've given him in his locker because he values that from me. And so instead of my words, something as easy as a little note.
After watching Sarah in action, I sat down with Prairie Crest Principal Kylie Hayes and instructional coach Courtney Coughlin to ask them more about TCIT.
So as you work with teachers, what are you hearing them say about TCIT, either when they're working with each other or when they're talking to you about the implementation of it?
Things that we often hear would just be teachers feeling more comfortable and confident with their everyday teaching, really honing in and refining skills that they already have, and enhancing those practices to really support students. We have new teachers to the profession as well as veteran teachers that speak so highly of TCIT and will consistently say that this really has changed their practice and how they go into every day, how they are able to support students, how they're able to really provide that positive praise in a way that meets the students where they're at in order to help to see students grow their social emotional skills.
They're really just building on practices that they already have, but sometimes it's that reminder that there's always a tool for every situation, building relationships with your kids. If you do have a situation where a student is non-compliant, that they always know, I have a tool for this. I know how that I can maintain the integrity of our relationship and still continue to teach the student and reach the student.
Not only was TCIT working as intended, I'm learning more about how it's helping students feel more heard and helping teachers feel more confident. I was curious what surprised these two most about the program.
So one thing that really surprised me about the program is just how seamlessly it fits into all of our other initiatives here at College Community. And so when we think about SEBH supports at College Community, we really focus on PBIS and our effective classroom practices at that Tier 1 level. It's been so great to have our TCIT work because it really just enhances all of those practices. Everything that we're learning in the training with teachers reiterates all of the things we've talked about with our teachers with our effective classroom practices and PBIS. So to that point, it doesn't feel like something new, rather just that enhancement of something we're already doing, and really just that ongoing coaching support that teachers get each and every day.
So TCIT, obviously, it's new learning and new skill development, but it fits, like you said, it fits in with your PBIS, your MTSS, all of those things really well.
Yeah.
Last year, all of the kindergarten teachers at Prairie Crest were implementing TCIT, and I'm thrilled to report they saw pretty dramatic results in their referral data.
Yeah, so the data from last year really showed just the effectiveness of TCIT. We had a pretty significant drop in our major referral data when looking at the data in September, October, November in comparison to January and on. And so really coming back to teachers honing in on those skills and refining their practices in the classroom to meet students where they're at, really support them with those social emotional needs, and know how to, proactively provide that support. But like Courtney mentioned before, be able to respond when we do have students who are showing disruptions in the classroom.
It's great when you have data to show results like this. For my final question, I asked what they thought set this training apart.
It focuses on the relationship with the child, the level of awareness that's needed in the things that you say and how you say them to a child, and just really focusing on that foundation of the relationship first, and that gets you in the door. Then when we talk about when a child is struggling with non-compliance and things like that, this really sets that foundation for relationship building so that they want to trust you and they want to listen when you give a direct command.
It also allows for that weekly coaching. So with that in vivo coaching piece, that's really been irreplaceable and something that our teachers connect well with. We're able to provide positive praise for teachers so they're feeling comfortable and confident about their skills, but then also provide some of those suggesting and coaching supports along the way. So it really does feel like that partnership. It's really a great professional development model when we think about that support where they're getting that theory, but they're also getting that weekly coaching and consultation to be able to celebrate what's going well and talk about what are some next steps to support our students.
This has been an amazing testimonial from Prairie Crest staff. I thank them for their time and return to Chris and Julie to wrap things up, asking them what they found most rewarding about these efforts.
Seeing their confidence grow in teaching the content, but also being able to manage the students in their classroom is really rewarding.
The fact that they're willing to engage in some interesting language-based strategies that also meet their needs as teachers to connect, I think that's been the most rewarding. The teachers are so appreciative and the kids are responding so well.
I had just one last question. What's one thing people should know about TCIT?
That it's not an extra thing, that it is a support for all the existing things that are out there. PBIS, MTSS, Child Find, Child Found, this can help across those things, that we aren't asking anyone to do anything extra. We are helping them to do those things better. It's a value-added benefit as opposed to another thing. They will feel better as teachers and they will feel more supported and that it works. It's an evidence-based practice that really helps teachers learn to make those connections with their students, but also I hear a lot of times with their spouses and their children.
It's always great to hear a success story, and I'm proud of the Grantwood AEA staff making this partnership possible. I'm John Speer, and this has been On the Road.